the conference, please press star then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. I will now turn the call over to Mike Kern. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Angela. And we do have Coach Greg Lansing of Indiana State on the line with us. Indiana State opens their week with a game at Southern Illinois. Later in the week, they will host Illinois State on Saturday. This time, we'd like to welcome Coach Lansing to the line. Good morning, Greg.
Morning. How you guys?
Good. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
It wouldn't be better if we won a couple games, but
you've been in a bunch of tight ones. Let's talk about Southern Illinois first. And Salukis on Wednesday, coming off of a win against Drake yesterday.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch that, and always just so well coached with Barry down there, and well prepared, and teams just play their tail off. And it's been a tough place for us to win, but a tough place for anybody to win. So I like how hard our guys have been playing. We just have to play a little smarter. Have to be able to rebound the basketball better, and I still think we got the makings of a decent team if we can keep getting better.
Thanks, Coach. Let's get to the questions now for you. Questions from the media for Coach Greg Lansing.
And we have a question from the line of Todd Hefferman. Your line is open.
Hey, Coach. Could you talk about a little bit? Hi, Greg. Could you talk a little bit about Everett Clemens and just he led you in assists last year, but has he become a better ball handler or a better distributor this year?
You know, what happened last year is Ev, to his credit, kind of took a back seat in the leadership to the seniors we had last year, and as soon as the year was over, he really stepped up. He knew it was going to be his team. He knew he was going to be the starting point guard, and he's a good basketball player at both ends of the floor, tough kid. He's improved his shooting. You know, people have to guard him. They just can't leave him. He's always been a good defender. And, you know, it's kind of at times as he goes, we'll go, you know, and we need him we probably have to play him a little less. I think he's getting tired in some of these ends of some of these close games. We need him to be productive at all times. The way I can tell is because his rebounding's been down the last couple of games. So when we need some help in that category. So we relying on Ev, and he's a good basketball player and a good leader for us.
And shooting comes and goes, but how has Brenton Scott, you know, dealt with just being the target, the number one target this year?
Well, after last game, he really played the right way. I was really proud of him. He was a distributor. He had 22 points, 9 defensive rebounds, 4 assists, no turnovers. So he really played the right way. And it's a work in progress because, you know, some of our tough games, I have been really, really hard on him because he's so competitive and so tough and somewhat hard-headed that he thinks he's got to do it on his own sometimes, and it's cost us at times. But he wants to learn how to play the right way. He was really good in the last game, and as he continues to trust his teammates and believe in those guys and get them shots, it's only going to help us. And he's got to help us at the defensive end as well. You know, 9 defensive rebounds, that's a heck of an outing for any guard. But guarding his guy and being a help guy, you know, so all those things. But I think he's getting better day by day with learning how to play with the bullseye on his chest.
And just, I know you've talked about it a little bit, but after playing Missouri State, you know, just how difficult is it to defend Alizé Johnson?
We didn't do a great job, obviously. He had 30. He got to the free throw line, but where he really hurt us was in transition in the second half. He's really good at getting a defensive rebound and bringing it on his own, and that's somewhat a tough thing to guard for some guys. But we probably could have done some different things with him. But in transition, off the offensive boards, he's a great second leaper. He can make a three. Just really good. Very, very difficult for us to guard, and guarding that position's been hard for us, you know, with the athleticism of some of these teams, and the two that we've seen is Wichita and Missouri State. So those guys are as good as it gets. But what an addition he is to that team, and along with a couple of their other guys. But Paul's done a great job, and just a really good team. I thought we played pretty well against them, but the better team won that day.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
And your next question comes from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, good morning, Greg. I wanted to ask you about
Harry.
the rebounding struggles you guys are having. Obviously, you're not the biggest team in the league, but how do you work on that, number one? And then secondly, all these close games, does that start to wear on a team as the season progresses?
You know, with the rebounding stuff, Harry, I'm probably not a great rebounding coach. I'm kind of like Coach Alford and Coach Waltman in that regard, just beating the heck out of each other every day. And I'm so worried about getting somebody hurt, but we've kind of turned the tide on that, and we're working on it a little more. Obviously, we talk tons about it. We watch tons of film on missed blockouts or where a guard can come help with a double-team blockout. So we just have to work on it more because it's basically gotten us beat, you know, and we've had a lot of close games. And if you give up a few less offensive rebounds, you're probably going to win a couple more of those. So the guys are going to keep working on it, all 5 guys on the floor, because we don't have individual great rebounders. We have to team rebound. We have to do that. And then with the close games, we're getting better with those things. You know, our basketball IQ down the stretch has to be better. We have to concentrate a little better, and finishing the defensive possessions has been the Achilles heel all year. But offensively, I know we're getting better, and the guys are playing their tails off, and they don't give in. They keep fighting and they keep competing. So we have had a lot of close games. We won a few of them. We've lost a few of them. But that's just the way it's going to be. It's going to be that way the rest of the year, so you might as well get used to it.
And then I do have to ask you about the freshman Barnes. How's his transition been so far?
Better every day. Better every day. I just think that it takes guys a long time at that age, even some of the junior college guys, just to figure out how hard you have to practice every day and on a consistent basis. You can't go through the motions. And I think with this AAU generation, sometimes these guys aren't used to playing and competing every day like you have to be able to get better and be able to win games at this level. But we love him. He's really good. He's got to be able to fight and defend because people go at him because of his stature. But he's getting better with it, and he's a good offensive player, and look forward to him helping us win a lot of games.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Thank you.
And your next question is from the line of Paul Sullentrop. Your line is open.
Morning, Greg. Hey,
Morning,
could you describe a little bit your recruiting philosophy as far as how you go? You know, you mix recruiting freshmen or high school seniors, and then mixing in junior college players to try to get that, you know, that right roster mix.
Yeah, I have a great staff. They're really good. They work their tails off and trying to get the right type of guys for our program. You know, guys with high character, guys that want to work hard on their game and continue to improve. You know, we're not getting the elite guys a lot of times. We try to get the best players we can, but we also want those guys that really work and really compete and that have some toughness about them to just go along with the culture that we have here. So our staff does a great job with it, and it's just tougher now, you know, with, again, the AAU generation guys and what they think and how they've worked. And, you know, you're going to all those tournaments in AAU, and the importance of winning and losing is decreased a little bit, I think, just because they play so many games. But we have to sprinkle in junior college guys here. We have to sprinkle in transfers, and that's usually comes towards the end of the year when you've been around your team enough to know exactly what you need and how you got to help it. So I think we've done a good job with it here. You can always do better, obviously, with what Wichita State has done with their recruiting. It's at a whole. We never see those guys. They're recruiting against Big 12 and SEC and stuff. But we have to continue to raise the bar here so we have a chance to win some championships.
Yeah, your relationship with Brenton, you were pretty tough on him after the Wichita State game, but he responded in the right way. How did you build that kind of relationship where you know you're going to get something good out of him after you're pretty critical?
Well, he and I, you know, we've butted heads so much from the start that he's been here, but I love him. I mean, he's got to screw loose, but so do I. And my job is to make him become a complete player, a better player at both ends of the floor. And he wants to do well. He wants to be a good teammate, and he wants to please the coaching staff. It's just that he is so competitive that he's had a tendency at times to do it a little bit too much on his own. And I've been really hard on him, really hard. we've had some heart-to-hearts, like really tough conversations, emotional conversations. And he watches film with me, and we're trying to get him to continue to play the right way. And he was terrific at Missouri State. And once he continues to keep working on that, and improving with it, because we all know he can score. He can score. He takes tough shots, but he makes tough shots. He's such a good offensive player that he's not done yet. He's just a junior, and he's a work in progress, and our team's a work in progress. We need him to play the right way, and I don't like getting on one guy individually. I've never said that to the media before, but I just thought that was, so at that point I just kind of needed to do it, and he and I talk about it. I never try to sell our players under the bus ever, because I love them, and I tell them I love them. But he is so important to us and our success that I just felt it was time to do that.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
And we have no further questions in queue.
Greg, thanks so much. Good luck this week.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
All right, bye. Next coach on the line is Ben Jacobson of Northern Iowa. The Panthers open their week with a game at Loyola on Wednesday, and this time we'd like to welcome Jake to the phone. Good morning, Jake. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Good morning. Let's talk about your game on Wednesday, and first open up with your comments on Loyola, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, their numbers certainly jump off the page with their their shooting percentage, both the 2-point percentage, the 3-point percentage, and then their assist numbers are they're just really good. And I think that obviously speaks to the roster that Porter and his staff have put together. That backcourt's got a bunch of versatility with guys that can score it. But they also do such a good job when they force help in terms of finding each other and finding opportunities for their guys inside. And I think Ingram's obviously off to a great start. Jackson's been a great addition. Custer's doing a terrific job coming off his red shirt, and I think Doyle's playing. He and Richardson are playing. Certainly playing better than they were a year ago. So. They just the versatility is what concerns me the most.
Thanks, Dan. Let's get now to the questions for Coach Ben Jacobson. Questions from the media.
And we have a question from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, good morning, Ben.
Morning, Harry.
I wanted to ask you about Wyatt, and is it still an ankle with him, and how is he developing? And then it seems like Clint, we were expecting a whole lot out of pretty early, and maybe expecting too much too soon after he had such a good Valley tournament.
Yeah, it is with Wyatt. His ankle is just kind of stuck. He hurt it in our first regular season game, and went down to Orlando and played on it, and just felt like it was one of those injuries that was going to get better. He was going to play on it. He was going to rehab it. He was going to do all the stuff that you got to do to come back from an ankle sprain, and it just didn't get any better. So we sat him for a while, and then brought him back after a couple of weeks, and then kind of the same thing, Harry. It just wasn't even close to being all the way back. But he wanted to fight through a couple games and did, and so now we've sat him again, as you know, and it's like as I've told people, it's kind of stuck. It just isn't getting much better. So we're going to keep working on it, and then we'll have to, we've had conversations about all possibilities and all options, and that so we'll see what happens here in the next week to 10 days. But we're going to have to make some decisions here soon with him. And then in terms of Clint, He played great last year for the last month and a half. He's got the kind of versatility that can really make a difference. We start him at the power forward position. We can play him at the center position, and when we go to that, that was a very effective lineup for us a year ago. And at times this year, it's been a very effective lineup for us. And I think the thing for Clint is seeing if we can get him. Finding ways to get him a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more involved offensively, because by nature, he is not an offensive guy. He would much rather just be part of the offense, be a guy that's, passing the basketball, forcing help, finding his teammates. He's never been, even going back to high school, he's never been a guy that is looking to score the basketball. And we kind of forced him into that role last year, and our team kind of developed into that. And then we saw it early, in particular against Oklahoma, where we were able to kind of get him in that same spot. So, his is more growing into and becoming a little bit different kind of player and having a little bit different kind of mentality. And that, for our team right now, we need him to take that step. He's going to have to become a more assertive offensive player.
And if I could ask you also, Ben, just a little bit about Jeff Rutter. You guys coached together and his new job.
Yeah, Rhett and I spent some years here together as assistants, and so obviously we've known each other and been close for a long time. And he's terrific. I learned a lot from him when we were assistant coaches together, and in so many different areas. And the one that stands out is his attention to detail. The guy has got notebooks and notes on top of his notes, and that was something for me at that point in my career. That was it was really helpful for me, and it really made a difference for me. And I know he's still that same way. And then on top of that, he's as detailed as he is, and as important as that is to him. He's a very easygoing guy, very easy to be around, and a very motivational and a very positive guy. And I think that's those are reasons why he's been so successful in his career to this point. And I think those are just two of the reasons why he's going to continue to have success.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah, thanks, Harry.
And your next question is from the line of Paul Stolentrop. Your line is open.
Hello, Ben. You may have touched on a lot of this with Harry's question, but I'll maybe take it a little bit different direction. Is getting kind of a second and third scorer to help out Jeremy, is that kind of the goal with the offense?
Yeah, no question. We've bounced, we've just kind of bounced around with some different things with the number of new guys, and I think a big part of our struggles at the offensive end, Paul, is a lot of it is on my shoulders, simply from the standpoint of trying to find something that's going to fit this group best, and I haven't quite found it yet. And now, hand in hand with that, and there's certainly some responsibility on our players, and in particular our older guys. With Bennett Cook at times this year, and he was good last year down the stretch for us. At times this year, he's been really hard to stop, and he's made plays in practice and he's made plays in games where he looks like the best player on the floor. And we've just got to find a way to get that from him more often, and that's got to be a place where we can go consistently with the basketball. And then, as I talked about with Clint, for him, as I talked about with the last question, Paul, his mentality is such that he would rather just be part of the offense, and he's going to play hard and he's going to compete, but he would rather just be part of it. And we need him on this team. We need him to do more. We need him to be a consistent scorer for us. At the very least, a guy who's consistently putting pressure on the defense so that we can get some easier shots. And so Jeremy, Clinton, Bennett, obviously the three of those guys need to be, and two of them need to start helping Jeremy a little bit more. But if we can get all three of them playing at a high enough level, I think then it makes it, it puts the rest of our guys in spots where they can be effective. Because Haldeman can shoot the basketball. Jordan Ashton has started to play, better here the last couple of weeks. I think he's going to be effective and a good player for us. And then we've got some freshmen coming off that bench that are going to be good players in time. Right now they're trying to figure things out. But we haven't had enough guys with Jeremy, and really, Bennett and Clint are guys that are going to have to be more consistent for us at that offensive end.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep. Thanks, Paul.
And we have no further questions in queue.
Jake, thanks for your time this morning. Good luck this week.
Okay. See you, Mike.
All right. Bye-bye. We have 4 teams sitting at 1-1 in the league standings after 2 games, and one of those is Bradley. We do welcome Coach Brian Wardle of the Braves to the line. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks.
Good. If you could open up just by commenting on your next game, that's at Evansville on Wednesday, and then we'll take some questions from the media for you.
Well, obviously, Marty's done a great job this year with his team after all he lost to to have 10 wins at this point is really impressive. They're playing very unselfish. They're screening for their two main scorers. You can kind of tell everyone knows their role, embraces their role, and they're really playing together and playing very disciplined defensively and offensively. So for our young group, we're going to have to come in there and play with a lot more discipline, take care of the basketball on offense. And then defensively, we got to do a good job of being tough and physical and fighting through screens. So it's going to be a big challenge for us, especially coming off our last game. But we do have a young, resilient group that believes in what we're doing in the process, and we're going to get back to work today and get better.
Thank you, Coach. Questions now from the media for Coach Brian Wardle.
We have a question from the line of Paul Solentrop. Your line is open.
Morning, Brian. Hey, you've really chosen to be patient, I guess, is the way to describe it, and build with high school kids, freshmen and sophomores. Tell me about that decision and how you kind of hope that plan proceeds for you.
Well, I think it was something I gave a lot of thought to before I even came to Bradley and understanding. I think you evaluate every situation, the roster, where the program's been previous years, what you're retaining, and then you deal with that situation the best way you can. And I think, Chris Reynolds and I took a lot of time thinking about the program and where it was and what we needed to do to build something to sustain. I mean, you can always go transfers and junior college routes for a quick fix. But I think you're going to have one good year, and then you're going to take a step back another 2 or 3 years, and then you're going to do it again. And we're trying to do this right. And as long as you have, obviously, an athletic director and president that understands that it's a process and we want to build something to last, that's what excited me and why I wanted to be at Bradley, because I felt that was the best choice to do by far. We didn't really have a lot of roster back when I took over. We looked at a few, we obviously entertained some junior college players here and there, but overall we wanted to get a group of freshmen we could develop and build with, and then keep recruiting talented classes in back-to-back years, which I feel we have. And now it's just a matter of gaining experience, getting these players better, and teaching them really how to compete for 40 minutes. And we're in that process right now.
So having the backing of the administration, that would be a real key element to that kind of plan.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think you got to have the same vision as your athletic director and when you take over a program. And, Bradley hadn't had much success in the previous years. We weren't really returning many players. I think I returned 3 guys, and then I had to dismiss one in August, so I had 2 guys back from the previous year of 9 wins. So you had to change culture, you had to change mindset, you had to change work ethic, and then you bring in young guys. And I knew, we were going to struggle at times. There's no doubt about that, but it was getting them to believe in developing, believe in what you want in the culture and in your mentality, and believing in your vision. And I'm still doing that this year, is telling them, Wichita State is a team that we got to learn how to compete 40 minutes with. They're a winning program. They're a championship level program. We know that, but we're going to get there, and this is how we're going to do it. And I think that's just important, that you constantly are relaying that message to your young guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And your next question is from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, Brian, just following up on that, I wanted to ask you how Barr is, transitioning this year, but also I got to see Ryan Stepanovich play about 4 times last week. Just, what are you guys expecting from him next year?
Well, Koch Barr is obviously a very talented big man. He's had some really good games this year for us. When he plays well, we play well. And I think people already see that. And when he struggles, we're not as good, especially defensively, as we could be. So we're constantly working with him. He's a great young man. He's trying to improve offensively. I think he will be a good offensive player. It's going to take some time, but he's adjusting to the physicality of this level. I mean, he's playing obviously 20, 25 minutes for us a game, and a lot of these guys he's playing are a lot physically stronger than him. So he's learning that. He's learning how important it is in positioning defensively so he doesn't get ducked in and get sealed. and then offensively about just playing lower and having his hands ready. So I think he's going to be a very good player for us in this league. I think he can be a big factor. It's just about development with him and getting him more experience. Ryan Stepanovic, I think he's a tough young man. He can make shots and make plays offensively. He's got a very high basketball IQ, and I think he's going to help us. I just think there's something about him. He's got a swagger about him. He's never nervous. There's a no-fear type mentality to him. And I really think if he gets stronger this summer and fall, it's going to be a huge off-season for him in the weight room. I think he's going to come in and contribute to us because it kind of brings some of the things that Nate Cannell's bringing to us right now, but he's bigger. And so I think we can use another player like that for sure next year.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
And we have no further questions. Thank you.
All right.
Coach,
thank you.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Missouri State, one of 3 league teams that are off to a 2-0 start. The Bears will play at Illinois State. The Redbirds also 2-0 on Wednesday. That will be part of the NBC TV network game of the week. Game is at 8 o'clock from normal. At this time, we'd like to welcome Coach Paul Lusk of Missouri State to the line. Good morning, Paul.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Let's talk about Illinois State. A very athletic, very talented team. Preview Wednesday's game for us, and we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, I think those 2 things you mentioned, they're athletic, they're talented, but I also think they're very experienced, and I think that probably is what stands out the most to me. They've got guys that have been through a lot of years in the Missouri Valley and a lot of games, and obviously Paris Lee is just a tremendous player and a tremendous leader, and you mix all of that experience with their talent and their skill level, and they're tough. They guard you. Their athleticism. They're a very good team.
Thank you, Coach. Questions for Coach Paul Lusk? Questions from the media?
I have a question from the line of Todd Hefferman. Your line is open.
Hey, Paul, could you talk a little bit about Obadiah Church's defense and his blocks this year, or a little bit up? You know, does he get a lot of blocks from the weak side, or are people just going right at him?
I think both. I think he does a nice job of coming over on any type of help situations. He's improved. He's improved in a lot of areas. His free throw percentage is up. He's getting more comfortable with his back to the basket. He's a good passer. He's just there's still a lot of growth left in his game. But yeah, his blocks are up. I think people will go at him. I think he's blocked some shots that way, but he's also just blocked it, whether we're in a rotation or coming over and helping on a drive.
Excuse me, and just you played Indiana State recently. Just how much more are they than just Brent and Scott?
Oh well, they're good. I told Greg they played a very good game at our place. Now we beat them on the glass, and I know the same thing happened with them in their prior game. But other than that, they were very solid. They're big guys. They can throw multiple bigs at you. They got the stretch fours that can put you in a bind. Obviously, Everett Clemens he's one of the better all-around guards in the league. He can rebound, get assist, he can score it. He defends you. Page plays his role. They're good defensively. They bring some guys in off the bench. Jordan Barnes did not have his best night, but he's been very good for them early. So, no, it's just not about Brent and Scott. They've got a good team.
Thank you.
You bet.
Your next question is from the line of Jim Benson. Your line is open.
Hey, Paul, could you talk a little bit about Johnson's impact on the team this year? And are you, a lot of times it takes junior college players, maybe a half season to get their feet on the ground. But obviously it seems like him and Ronnie both have just kind of hit the ground running from day one for you.
Yeah. Jim, I think our trip really helped us. Alizé his head was kind of spinning earlier this summer with the practices and and just adjusting. And but he's done a nice job. I think the trip really helped all of those guys. Jared Rhodes has been solid for us as well as a new guy, but I think number one, first and foremost, those guys are really coachable, and there's not they let us coach them. They're not fighting anything. They want to get better. They're hard workers in practice. They're consistent with their effort, and I think that's really helped them have some success. And the last two games, Ronnie has struggled a little bit, but yet Ronnie has been so good throughout the season. There's still an adjustment period for those guys, but they come back ready to work, and we've been pleased with all three of them.
And I guess when you have junior college guys come in, maybe some players have to take a step back on their roles on the team. Seems like your guys, Daquan and everybody, Obadiah, everybody's really kind of adjusted to those guys having maybe a bigger role on the team.
Well, I mean that's you whatever you earn is what you're going to get, and a lot of what I've seen from all of our guys, we've got 30 or 40 practices, even counting this summer. I could tell you that Alizé Johnson led us in rebounding every single practice, and so I think we're deeper, but I don't know about guys taking a step back or stepping back from what they were doing a year ago. As we talked about, we were not as good, and a lot of times guys got to play by default. And even our young guys, a guy like Jared Dixon, he had an outstanding year, but he got a lot of minutes last year, and there haven't been quite as many minutes, but yet we're better, and I think guys are happy that we're better. Jared Dixon didn't play a whole lot at Northern Iowa, but he's had a great attitude, and he came back, and he was very good the other day. So it beats the alternative. We've got guys, we've got more depth, and I think guys are satisfied with winning, and if that means they don't score as much or maybe get as many shots, as I said, that beats the alternative.
Thanks, Paul. See you Wednesday.
You bet.
And we have no further questions in queue.
Thank you.
Coach, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, bye-bye. And just a follow-up note for Jim Benson, the Alizé Johnson 30-point, 15-rebound effort against Indiana State marks the first time since 1998 that a league player had that in a league game. Rico Hill was the last to do it at Illinois State. And at this time, we'd like to welcome our next coach to the call, Barry Hinson of Southern Illinois. The Salukis coming off a win against Drake, back at home Wednesday to face Indiana State. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
Talk a little bit about the Sycamores. They've been through a bunch of close games so far this year, 4 overtimes, 9 total games decided on the last possession. Talk about Indiana State, and then we'll open up for some questions.
I'll tell you exactly what I told my team. I think they're one of the best teams in the league. I've always thought Greg Lansing is one of the best coaches in the country. I think they'll be very well prepared. I think you got to look at who they've played this year. Their schedule has been outstanding. And they've had, you just alluded to it, 4 overtime games, and they've been in every game. But you've got very few of our teams in our league have top 25 wins, and they have one. And I think right now that they're going to come in here with their backs to the wall, much like everybody in conference play, and I don't think it'd be anything but an unbelievable game.
Thank you, Barry. Let's now get to the questions for Coach Hinson. Questions from the media.
The question for the line of Paul Sullentrop. Your line is open.
Morning, Barry. Could you draw upon all your years of experience in the Valley and explain how you think about, what's the right mix of recruiting high school kids and junior college kids to kind of, improve quickly, but yet you want to build for the long haul at the same time? How difficult is that to do, and how do you approach that puzzle?
Well, Paul, it's changed. It's changed dramatically since I got into the league. So let's look at 16 years ago when I came in the league. The internet, sports talk radio, social media didn't have as much an impact at that time on recruiting. And I'm not talking about recruiting as per se as the pressure of the recruiting that people want to win and win immediately. I think what Brian Wardle is doing at Bradley and what Chris is allowing him to do and their president is the only way to do it. I've said this, and I'll say it till the day I die. You have to make a choice of what type of program you want to be, and there's no right or wrong answer. There are programs throughout the country that go strictly the junior college route, and they have great success. And, it's just reload every year, every 2 years. There are programs that just go the high school route and try to get those kids and don't mess a lot with a junior college player, and they have success. We have chosen that the salt and pepper, and I say that we try to salt and pepper with junior college players to kind of fit the median as well as redshirt players. I don't think you could be successful in this league, and history has shown that the success of this league has always been with 4th and 5th year seniors. If you look back to any mid-major program, all success, all upsets are at a time when you have programs that have 4th and 5th year seniors that are beating a high major program that has young players or is freshman and sophomore laden. And I just, in this league, the roadmap has always been, you go back even with Wichita State, you look at Bradley, you look at Northern Iowa, what they did last year, Northern Iowa when we played them at Kansas, Bradley, when Bradley played Kansas with Marcellus Somerville and that group, Southern Illinois with Darren Brooks as one of their redshirt 5th year guys. I mean, I think it bodes well for itself that maturity and experience really weighs a lot. And I just think the success, you've got to have some guys that could get to that 4th and 5th year mark.
How tough is it when you're trying to go that way, and then you see a guy like Alizé Johnson or Darrell Willis, you say, well, I want to go get some of those guys, but you've got to stick with the plan, I guess. Is that a tough thing for a coach to stay patient?
Well, I've had junior college players that have got off to great starts. I can remember we had a couple of junior college guards when I was at Missouri State that just had unbelievable non-conference year. And then by the time you got into the second round of conference play, everybody had kind of figured out what they did, and it was really struggle. It's much like a sophomore in the league. A freshman that does really well his first year, and then everybody figures him out in the league his sophomore year, and he has the sophomore slump. It's not so much a slump; it's that everybody figures you out. And Paul, I just don't think, you have to be at a program that will be patient and doesn't want to succeed with the quick fix route, because I think what Brian said earlier, you can't be on a roller coaster. You look at the success of all the teams that we're talking about right now. Illinois State, Wichita State, Northern Iowa. Those 3 teams over the last few years have had great success, but they've not been on a roller coaster. And they've done this, with the salt and pepper, I would say, mentality. And I think, the other thing that's changed since year 2000, Paul, is the graduate transfer. And that's a new element. And now if you're a mid-major and you're having success, you're able to get maybe a graduate transfer and somebody to come into your program. So that's a whole new realm of recruiting. And I don't know if there is I think you throw that in the picture. I just gave you 4 different scenarios of guys trying to get their program to the right spot. And, I don't know if there's a magic answer, but there's certainly 4 different ways to do it.
Thank you, Barry.
Thanks, Paul.
And your next question comes from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, Barry, I know you guys are waiting on Armand's ankle to find out what's going on, but as long as he may or may not, as long as he may be out, what's it look like? Is that Lloyd and Cook filling in those spots, and what are the prospects there?
Well, Harry, we're down to 4 guards, so we may have to play a walk-on guard. We're going to look at practice today at moving some of our hybrid 4s to the perimeter. There's nothing good about this, Harry. I can't put a spin on it. I'm sorry. I wish I could. It affects us in more ways than one, and we're just hoping and praying for good news. We've not received any news as of yet. He's at the hospital right now getting the X-ray, so we'll have to look at playing a walk-on perimeter guard, probably some more, or moving one of our 4 men to the perimeter.
It's tough for you guys to talk a little bit about Bull's development so far.
I think the development part has been, as long as our guards can figure out how to get him the ball, he's going to be successful. We've not done a good job of feeding him the basketball enough. And, it goes back to some of the comments today about junior college players get about a year and a half. He's certainly had some games where he struggled. And I think the biggest struggle, like Paul referred to a while ago, these guys really struggle with the practice and really just the amount of time that goes into everything. I mean, when you go from an environment that doesn't have the budget or doesn't have the commodities that we have at the Division I level, where our guys are going from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night with practice, classes, and strength and conditioning, and you're doing that literally in the summertime to start it off, it's a huge shock value. And I think he's handled the shock value quite well. I mean, he's had some tough times and had some tough days, but I think his transition has been pretty good.
Thanks a lot, Barry. Wish you the best.
Thanks, Harry. Same to you, my friend. Happy New Year.
You too.
And we have no further questions in queue.
Barry, thank you very much. Good luck this week.
Mike, Happy New Year to all the coaches and the staff. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Barry. Let's get next to Marty Simmons at Evansville. Evansville beating Northern Iowa yesterday and hosting Bradley on Wednesday. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning, Mike.
I got to ask you, just talk about Bradley, your next game, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, tough opponent, that's for sure. Brian's done a great job with putting his team together. Very balanced team, quick, athletic, a lot of guys that can really pass, dribble, and shoot, so they spread you out. Barr's giving them some size and length inside, but just really impressed. Brown's done a great job for a freshman. Dictates tempo both offensively and defensively, and just got a lot of quick, athletic players that can beat you off the dribble and also shoot the three. And then defensively, they're sound. They do a great job defensively. Very difficult to score against.
Thank you, Marty. Now questions from the media for Coach Marty Simmons of Evansville.
A question from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, Marty, when I look at, I haven't been able to see you guys a ton, but trying to break down some things. 2 quick questions. Your defensive numbers are way better than last year, 4 or 5 points a game. Have you guys done anything different this year related to that, number one? And then number 2, I know Jalen's been terrific. Did you think he was going to be this good? What I mean is he's been a good player in your program and had to take that back seat, but to be able to ascend like he has, is that a little bit surprising?
Well, yeah, a little bit, I guess. He, last year when Boo got hurt at the beginning of the year, he was thrown into a situation where he was our primary point guard and played, I think, 30-plus minutes. And he grew up, he matured, he played outstanding, did a great job of taking care of the ball and getting it to other people, was great defensively. And I think it just gave him a ton of confidence. And, he watched DJ. Played with DJ, and he knew that he would have, the opportunity to maybe step into a different role. And I think he looked forward to it. And as you said, he's done an outstanding job. As far as defensively, we're really not. We've kept the same principles and are trying to do, some things similar to what we've done last year. I think, we've been pretty fortunate, to be quite honest.
When you talk about Boo there just for a moment, what does he add to you? Maybe on the defensive end, we know he's a good distributor. On the offensive end, is defense a strength for him out there on the front?
Yeah. He and even before that, Harry, he's such an emotional leader for our team. He brings a lot of what Adam Wing brought to our team last year. Boo's a tough guy, and he loves competition, loves to play. And like you said, he's a good defender for us, strong, athletic. Can guard both, perimeter guys and inside guys. He guarded McIntosh the other night at Illinois State. But he's becoming more confident, starting to make more mid-range jumpers, getting to the basket. Like most guys that have had to sit for a year, it takes a while to just kind of get that game confidence back, and I think he's doing that.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
We have no further questions in queue.
Coach, thanks for your time this morning, and good luck this week.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Marty. We do have Loyola head coach Porter Moser on the line with us. Loyola opening up its week with a home game against Northern Iowa on Wednesday. Good morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike.
We're going to preview the game against the Panthers this Wednesday, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Well, I mean, their schedule has been unbelievable. You start looking at how hard their schedule's been. It's just one of the hardest non-conference schedules in the country. And they open up against Missouri State and Evansville, who's played really well. And obviously Morgan. I mean, he's everything and more than his whole career. He's a winning kid. He's carried a ton of load in a lot of different areas for him, and he's definitely the key to their team.
Thank you, Coach. Now go to questions for Coach Porter Moser. Questions for the coach.
I have a question from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, Porter, good morning to you. Just wondering about Milt. He's been so good for you all year long, and then the Valley season comes along, and it just gets tougher. Is that up a lot about, the other teams knowing him so much better than maybe your non-conference foes? And then I know Ingram came back from the injury and had a great first game. Just how is he health-wise?
It's the first part of the question with Milt. With Milt, he has had a good start of the season, and he's struggled in conference, but we're not going to make a big deal of it because I know his mindset is good. He's all about the right things more than any time in his whole career. He wants to win tremendously. I mean, his practice habits have been awesome. His problem is he wants to do it all himself sometimes because he wants to win so bad. And Milt, one of his best skills is his passing ability. He can really pass the ball and create shots for others, and we just need to do that more. The league knows him; they're keying in on him, and then he's got to trust some of the other guys. But we need him. Obviously, he got in foul trouble a couple games, and then yesterday we all struggled yesterday, and a lot of that was us, and a ton of it was Illinois State's length and athleticism. But we're counting on him. I don't think it's anything to do with league, non-league. He's a really good player, and I'm looking forward to him to really help us turn it around. And I think your team goes through a point in every season where your confidence is shaken a tad. And we had two close losses in a row with Toledo and Drake on the road, and we came home, and I thought we got out to a really good start. We were up 5 in Illinois State, and then they went on a run, and then our confidence, we just didn't recover from it, and we got to turn it. You go through parts of that. We went through that in the beginning of conference last year, and then we turned it. Back to your second part of your question with Dante, he's really healthy. He's fine. He had a really good scoring game against Drake, and we got to get him some more shots, but he's completely healthy and someone we need to count on.
Glad to hear it. Thanks, Porter.
Thanks, Eric.
And we have no further questions in queue.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Porter. Good luck
Bye, Mike.
this week. All right, bye-bye. Mentioned earlier that we have 3 teams sitting at 2-0 in league play after the first week of conference action. Illinois State is one of those teams. Redbirds also 10-4 overall and hosting Missouri State 2-0 in the league on Wednesday. At this time, we'd like to welcome Coach Dan Muller of Illinois State. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Let's start off by just previewing Missouri State and talk about the Bears, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, really good team. Paul's done an unbelievable job. Obviously, 3 new starters, 3 junior college guys who are all very good. Their depth is pretty scary. I see some similarities between the two of us as far as length, athleticism, and speed and depth.
but it should be an exciting game and a huge challenge for us.
Thank you, Dan. Let's now get to the questions for Coach Dan Muller of Illinois State. Questions from the media.
And we have no questions in queue.
Okay.
Dan, if you could, actually one just popped up there, but if you, before we go to it, could you comment on the newcomers for your team making a contribution? And of course, Missouri State also has 3 guys that are pretty prominent in their lineup.
Yeah, Phil Fain has been a starter from the beginning. Has really been consistent, and that's the most exciting thing about him is he gets some points and some rebounds naturally. He's becoming a better defender and gives us some length. DJ Clayton, been a little bit up and down scoring-wise, but a really good rebounder, slasher, being more comfortable in his role and giving us great depth at the wing.
Thank you, Dan. We do have a couple of questions now in the queue for you.
And we have a question from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, Dan, earlier in the year you were telling me that, you were struggling finding guys you could trust, and then I look at your rotation, and not a lot of guys. Some of the guys seem to be growing in their minutes. Just how's that depth developing for your team?
Hey, Harry. I've been pleasantly surprised. We've had a lot of guys buy in defensively. David Njai was injured. It helped to get him back. Tony Wills is healthy now, finally. It really hurt us beginning of the year. He didn't move his feet like he normally does. Keyshawn Evans, DJ, David, Madison Williams have all just continued to get better. We've done a lot of skill work with those guys, extra work. But the biggest thing is defensively, we're pretty good 1 through 9 right now. And as long as guys continue to buy in practice, they'll continue to get minutes. And it only helps those starters. First games of the year, I was playing some guys too many minutes. I think it hurt us. So I think getting those guys rest has really been a key for us.
And on the defensive end, I know you've been working on it a lot. Is there anything specifically you've done differently, or just the guys figuring it out more?
Yeah, there's this crazy thing called playing harder that our guys figured out, competing consistently. They've bought into what we've been selling. Now, we put a lot more work into practice, but defense, there's no secrets. It comes down to competing, communicating, having each other's back, sitting down and fighting the ball. And really, that's all it's been.
Thanks, Dan. Good luck.
Thanks, sir.
Your next question comes from the line of Jim Benson. Your line is open.
Hey, Dan, you kind of alluded to the Missouri State has brought in 3 junior college guys, and they're obviously all playing huge roles on the team. And you bring in a couple of junior college guys usually a year. What's the key to kind of integrating junior college guys into the team where they can make an impact right from the start of the season?
Well, I don't know if there's a huge key, Jim. A lot of it depends on the individual. A lot of it depends on is there enough leadership? Junior college guys, they only have 2 or 3 years of urgency with getting them to understand how hard they have to compete quicker. And then it just comes down to the coachability of the player, what type of kid he is, what type of character does he have, is he going to be allowed to coach hard, is he going to allow himself to be coached hard. But again, the better your culture, the better leadership you have of returners. In my experience, to this point, after 5 years of doing it, the quicker those guys are going to buy in.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
And we have no further questions in queue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Good luck this week. Appreciate it. Next coach on the line with us is Coach Greg Marshall of Wichita State. The Shockers are one of 3 teams in the league, also at 2-0 in conference play. Wichita State sitting at 12-3 overall, opening up their week with a home game against Drake on Wednesday. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Let's start off by just commenting on Drake and preview the game on Wednesday, then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
To be honest with you, I don't know anything about Drake yet. I have not watched any film. We're still wrapping up Bradley here. Played yesterday afternoon, and we'll get into Drake this afternoon.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get now to the questions for you. Questions from the media for Coach Gregg Marshall.
I have a question from the line of Harry Schroeder. Your line is open.
Hey, Greg, I just wanted to ask you about Shaq. It seems like I think he's dinged up, so I'm trying to dig up information on that. And as I've tried to watch you guys a bit and watch your rotation, frame camp coming off the bench, is he just better off the bench? And have you guys kind of landed the rotation, or will that still be in flux for a while?
Shaq had a hematoma in his quad, his thigh, and he was, it happened right before we played Oklahoma. He was able to play in that game and play pretty well. It grew and it stiffened up. He didn't tell us. He tried to play against Oklahoma State. It did not fare very well, was not very effective, couldn't move. And then we shut him down for a week or two. So I don't know how long it was a couple of games. And he was able to come back and play 13 minutes yesterday. So hopefully he's on the mend. Connor's coming off the bench playing well for us. Deshaun Smith is starting at the point. Those guys will rotate in. There's no set lineup that's in stone. It's just a matter of who's playing well and who's playing at the hot hand that particular day. He's probably going to play the most minutes.
But do you see Connor as being a guy that likes it better off the bench, or is that just the way it is right now?
I haven't asked him.
Okay. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
And your next question is from the line of Jim Benson. Your line is open.
Hey, Greg, could you just talk about, obviously, the impact Willis is making on the team right now? Did you think he would kind of jump into the role he has? It seems like he's almost the leader of the team right now. Is that a little bit of a surprise to you?
No, it's not. We knew he was very talented when we recruited him. He's one of those guys that we actually beat some Power 5 schools in the recruiting process, which we don't normally do. He came in with the ability to score. He's very athletic. He's a tremendous young person. He's very coachable. He's attempting to get better in the areas that he needs to get better in, and we're very happy with him and proud of what he's done so far.
And after the Oklahoma State loss, what was the biggest positive that you saw from the team, the way you guys seem like you've been able to bounce back from that?
Well, we competed. I mean, we didn't compete in that game. It was just not something that we're used to seeing. I mean, we got smacked in the mouth and just kind of cowered over in the corner instead of fighting back. So that's been the biggest change.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
And we have no further questions in queue.
Coach, thank you for your time this morning. Good luck this week.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, bye-bye. And we'll ask the beat writers to stay on the line. This does conclude our call this week. Coach Jeff Rudder of Drake was unavailable. The Bulldogs flying back from Carbondale and in the air during the entire duration of the call. But we'll ask the beat writers to stay on the line with us. We'll have a brief roundtable. We'll ask everybody else to disconnect at this time.
Every road to St. Louis starts on the Missouri Valley Conference campus and converges under the gleaming reflection of Arch Madness. Don't miss the 2017 State Farm NBC Men's Basketball Championship, March 2nd through 5th at Scott Trade Center, presented by Aetna and Fox Sports Midwest. Get your tickets and get on the road to Arch Madness as 10 Missouri Valley teams battle it out for a final march to Selection Sunday. Get your tickets and get to St. Louis for Arch Madness.